Hi, this video covers how to get started with your photo collage for the Elements and Principles project. So here we are in Photoshop. I have created a new document, so you're going to do the same thing. You can go to File, New, or go ahead and create it when your Photoshop opens. The size of your document will be 8 inches in height and width, so 8 inches square, so the orientation doesn't matter. Resolution 300 pixels per inch, color mode RGB, and hit Create. Okay, so there is our document. It's just a blank square, right? We are going to divide this up into essentially what will be a grid. And to do that, we are going to create some grid lines. So I'm going to go to View and New Guide. I am going to place grid lines at 2, 4, and 6 inches, both horizontally and vertically. So I'll start with my horizontal ones. I have this little circle next to horizontal marked. I will go ahead and type in there 2 inches, hit OK, and now I have a 2-inch line going across my document. Don't move that at this point. Okay, so again, same thing, View, New Guide, Horizontal. This one will be 4 inches. Hit OK, View, New Guide, and 6 inches. Same thing now for the vertical ones. And as you'll notice as we start working on this project, even right now, this one is a little bit repetitive, but it turns out really cool, and it's a good repetitive. I feel like you learn a lot of things, and the more you do it, the more you get used to it and understand how it works. So I think the repetition is really good. Okay, so as you can see here, I have added my grid lines at 2, 4, and 6 inches, both vertically, or going up and down, and horizontally, or going across. Now, at this point, I could move these grid lines. So if I switch to my Move tool, I can click and drag that around and move it all over the place. I don't want to do that, however, so don't do that. Okay, we want to lock these, actually. So we're going to go to View and Lock Guides. If for some reason it got moved before you locked it, make sure it gets back into the right spot. And then the next thing we are going to do is we are going to add a square in each of these little squares in our grid that we just created by adding those grid lines. So we are going to come down here to our rectangle tool. So mine was showing up as that custom shape tool. Yours might be the same, or it might show your rectangle tool or your ellipse tool or whatever the case may be. But just go ahead and click on that rectangle tool, and now all I'm going to do is tap once in my document. When I do that, then I get this little dialog box popping up, and I'm going to tell it in there exactly what size I want my rectangle to be. So I'm going to go with 2 inches in both width and height, and I'll hit OK. And there we go. There is my one square to start out things. So I'll start by popping this guy into the upper left-hand corner. And now what I'm going to do is I am just going to copy that square and fill each of these individual squares. So an easy shortcut to do that is to press and hold the Alt key on your keyboard until you see those double arrows and click and drag over and create a copy. Click and drag over, release the mouse button, and then press it again. Click and drag over. Again, click and drag until I have 16 squares that are exactly the same in size and color and everything else. So I will just fill all of those squares. This is not the only way to make copies, so if for some reason that Alt button just doesn't want to make copies for you, you can come over here to your layers panel and you can hit Control J on the layers panel, but then you'll still have to move your copies into the right spot. The other way would be to click and drag to your new layer button at the bottom of your layers panel. I'm going to undo that, Control Z to undo it, or you could come up here and add a new layer this way. Okay, so there are multiple different ways to copy that same layer or add another layer. So that is exactly what we need to do to start. Make sure all of your rectangles are in the right spots. You don't want these, I'll show you what we're doing. We don't want them sort of off center and anything like that. Okay, so they should be just filling up those squares. One other thing I want to show you is this auto select. If this button is checked, anytime I click on here, it will auto select the layer that I am working with. And for this project right now, this works really well. I usually have that turned off though. What I do to select a layer is I right click in that area where the layer lives, And then what pops up are all of the options that are directly below where I clicked. So right now I have two, the background layer and the rectangle 1 copy 5. So right now it's pretty easy, but when I have 15 layers stacked on top of each other and I right click, then I should be able to select that right one. So that's why I keep that unchecked, because I just find it easier when I start to build up some layers. So if I select that one, then I can move that one. And if I want to go over here, right click, rectangle copy 14, I can move that layer. Let me show you a couple of things that you might run into as you're working on this project. One of the things is changing the color of your rectangle. So I made all my rectangles, but what if I don't like the color of them? I'm going to select one of them, so I'll select this one right here. Notice again I right clicked and chose the layer I wanted. If I come over here and change my color to pink, it should change the color of my rectangle, right? Well, it doesn't. It doesn't make it that easy. If I have my rectangle tool selected, however, I can come up here to the fill color and I can change the color there. Okay, so that's the difference. Make sure your rectangle tool is selected, because if I had just had my regular move tool, I would not be able to change the color of my rectangle. Again, switch to my rectangle tool and change the color. I made all of mine the same color, and we are actually going to cover all of these up, so honestly it doesn't matter what color these are at this point. I like to keep mine all the same, but you definitely don't have to do that. Okay, as a matter of fact, I'll probably change the color of those back to what I had them as. There we go. Okay, that's all you need to do for this step in the process. Good luck, and let me know if you have questions.